Even though humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives.
Hey, what's up, folks? The president of Ukraine is doing his U.S. tour, meeting with bankers, and delivering speeches on climate change. We're gonna listen to that, talk about it, and follow this bizarre saga of some Ukrainian spokesperson that's actually from the U.S. sending out a veiled threat to journalists.
Mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. And this puppet of Putin is only the first. Russia's war criminal propagandists will all be hunted down, and justice will be served.
And then walking it back while still pretty much saying the same thing. It's pretty interesting stuff. And then we'll wrap it up with former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, and her speech last year, because in order to know what they're going to do to the world, you just have to listen to their speeches. They'll tell you. Appreciate you guys. God bless. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Apparently today, according to Fox Business, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine is in America meeting with JP Morgan, a bunch of bankers, investors, BlackRock's Larry Fink. According to Fox Business, he met privately with him. Shocker, shocker. Let's listen to his thrilling speech about climate change that he gave in America. I guess there's some conference where they're bringing everyone, maybe the UN conference. I'm sure the headline will say it, but here's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy weighing in on climate change.
Even though humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives, this means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. And when people in the streets of New York and other cities of the world went out on climate protest, we all have seen them. And when people in Morocco and Libya and other countries die as a result of natural disasters, and when islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war and kill tens of thousands of people. We have to stop it. We must act united to defeat the aggressor and focus all our capabilities and energy on addressing these challenges. As nukes are restrained, likewise the aggressor must be restrained, and all his tools and methods of war. Each war now can become final, but it takes our unity to make sure that aggression will not break in again. And it is not a dialogue between the so-called great powers somewhere behind the closed doors that can guarantee us all the new wars era, but open war of all nations for peace.
That lady was like, wait, what? Wait, climate change, then Russia nukes. Like things kind of escalated there. But this is the book that I think this is one of the reasons I got banned off of TikTok, because I just held up this book and I was like, hey, they say that COVID-19, the Great Reset's a conspiracy theory, but it's actually a book written by Klaus Schwab. And there's no graphics in the book except for one. And you can see this graphic. It shows the failure, like climate change actions in the middle, and all the other catastrophes of the world revolve around climate change. So that's Klaus Schwab's narrative in this book, that climate action failure is the number one biggest problem in the world. And every problem you see, it doesn't matter if it's immigration, this, that, war, all of this revolves around climate change. So interesting that Zelenskyy has, a similar narrative in a way. And I guess he's now in the United States preaching to us about climate change while he's meeting with bankers. Wonder what's going on there. Don't wonder too much, folks, because the more you wonder and the more you find out, the more somebody's going to hate you for knowing what everyone else doesn't know. So don't think too much. Thinking is getting closer and closer to being illegal out here, folks. I could talk about Zelenskyy for a while, but I want to get through to the story and the topics that are interesting to me, so I won't say too much. This is some woman who is apparently a spokesperson of Ukraine now. I believe it's a transgender American citizen who moved to Ukraine to work for the Ukrainian military in some form. It's not very clear, but at first I thought it was maybe like a parody or some sort of joke, but it's not. And this is the first video that went viral. They sent out a message basically saying that Russian propagandists will be hunted around the world and celebrating a journalist. I believe that's being persecuted for reporting on the war in a way that favors Russia over Ukraine. So here's the first message that went viral on Twitter.
Russia hates the truth that their obsessive focus on a Ukrainian volunteer is simply allowing the light of the Ukrainian nation's honesty to shine brightly. Next week, the teeth of the Russian devils will gnash ever harder, and their rabid mouths will foam in uncontrollable frenzy as the world will see a favorite Kremlin propagandist pay for their crimes. And this puppet of Putin is only the first. Russia's war criminal propagandists will all be hunted down, and justice will be served as we in Ukraine are led on this mission by faith in God, liberty, and complete liberation.
So she says something like Putin propagandists or Kremlin Russian people will be hunted down around the world. Anybody that's reporting journalism that favors Russia over Ukraine, or as they would call it, war propaganda. Here's the issue. I mean, I could think of several, but the first one is they've been calling people Putin propagandists before this war started. If you like Bernie Sanders more than Hillary Clinton, they called you a Putin propagandist. If you like Donald Trump more than Hillary Clinton, they called you a Putin propagandist. You could be an American Russian grandma who's never even thought about Russia in your life, and they were calling everybody Kremlin propagandists, Putin propagandists. So it's pretty creepy when we have the United States funding Ukraine to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. You're called a Putin propagandist if you have an opinion about it. And then this person who's an American citizen turned spokesperson for the Ukrainian military goes over there and says, I guess, celebrating the fact that a journalist who was reporting on the Ukraine war is being hunted down or prosecuted, and pretty much promising to hunt down more people. What are you talking about? Are you talking about actual people connected to Russia, which is also still insane, or are you talking about anybody in the world, in any country, any citizen that maybe wants to cut a little bit of foreign aid? Are you talking about someone who votes the wrong way? Are you talking about somebody who votes for Trump? Because they already used that for 6 years. There's people that support the Ukraine war now that were called Putin propagandists because they voted for Trump over Hillary. So it's a little bit creepy to see that sort of stuff, but you're going to see it more and more. I mean, the world is going nuts, and hopefully there is some common sense here soon, because it is getting very bizarre and odd and creepy, for me included. Here's the follow-up, because J.D. Vance, if you guys don't know him, he's a Republican from Ohio, I believe. He said, I'd like the Biden administration to explain who this crazy Ukrainian spokesperson is and whether they stand by Ukraine's clear attack on free speech. I guess J.D. Vance also said, according to Breitbart, if the Ukrainians want to hire weirdos to threaten Americans and others for speaking their mind, I guess it's their right. They shouldn't use our tax dollars to do it. And then the person responded to J.D. Vance in another very creepy video. I'm going to let this one play longer. Let me know what you think, but it's really Orwellian stuff.
This is Sergeant Sarah Ashton Cirillo of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and I'd like to thank the X social media platform for carrying this exclusive message from Kyiv. There has been much discussion recently related to my role within the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Before answering some of the questions put forward by Senator Vance of Ohio, I'd like to thank all those in the U.S. who are supporting the Ukrainian people. Without Republicans and Democrats working together on behalf of Ukraine, our growing and unstoppable success on the battlefield, and the inevitable victory it will bring over the Russian invaders would take significantly longer. The delivery of ATACMS will further expedite our victory while saving lives and tax dollars in the process. America is once more showing why it's history's greatest republic and the world's lone superpower, and all of us in Ukraine are humbled by the support we're receiving from the American people. Let me also take a moment in my role as spokesperson for the AFU's Territorial Defense Forces to state unequivocally that we in the TDF and across Ukraine believe journalists are heroes and have the right to report on Ukraine's war for liberation without interference. Free speech is the pillar of all democracy. The First Amendment of the US Constitution, along with the rest of that sacred document, is ordained by God. The Russian propagandists and war criminals who are spreading lies and pushing false narratives are not journalists. They are information agents and an extension of the Putin-Prigozhin effort to spread chaos and wreak havoc across the globe. In Ukraine, we do not seek vengeance, only justice. Because of this, these enemies of freedom and democracy will have to answer for their crimes in a court of law. Senator Vance recently asked the US Director of National Intelligence, along with the Secretaries of State and Defense, if I was working in some capacity for the American government. Simply put, I'm an American serving as a Ukrainian infantry soldier and combat medic who was brought from the zero line and assigned to the TDF's media team in the dual role of spokesperson and Russian disinformation analyst. The remaining speculation surrounding me is disappointing. While in Ukraine we are fighting for global liberty and the ideology of victory, too many in Moscow and across the world are still caught up in focusing on the tired trope of gender chaos. Ukraine is a nation that embraces individual liberty and maintains a devotion to.
See, when you say you're going to hunt down Russian propagandists around the world, this is where it gets interesting. Like that person said, you know, in Moscow and around the world. So they're always trying to make it like it's Russia, it's Russia. And it's like, oh, you know, Russia's just cares about gender chaos and around the world. But in Moscow, it's like you can go to Africa. Most of Africa disagrees with the liberal interpretation of how they're, you know, pushing gender ideology. I would say a lot of Europe is not so liberal as much as us. I would say that the Middle East is certainly not as so. The long story short, there is a conversation to be had, left wing, right wing, gender, etc. It's being had all over the world, but these are the games that they play. As they say, oh, it's a Moscow thing. It's like, well, no, Russia is on a more, I don't know if I would call it conservative side of gender ideology. Well, Ukraine used to be, now they're turning into San Francisco. So it's like, oh, what are you talking about when you say Russian propagandists are going to be hunted down? Are you talking about literal people who work for Putin or people who don't want to give $50 billion to Zelenskyy of taxpayer money? And I can't speak for JD Vance because I'm not really sure all of what he said, but you know, it's one thing that we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, but if we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to a country that's then using the taxpayer money to fund speakers that are basically threatening journalists around the world who don't fully agree with them, it's a little bit creepy. I mean, you'll have an easier time in America making fun of the Democrat or Republican Party than you will certain foreign countries. I would say, you know, criticizing Israel is almost illegal at this point because of the laws that are being passed by Democrats and Republicans. And I'm not telling you to criticize that country. It's just you'll have an easier time criticizing America in America than you will Israel in America, because that's what happens. And if you ever notice that, they'll call you an anti-Semite like they do everybody. But in Ukraine, it's sort of the same thing. It's like you're better off disagreeing with your own country more than you disagree with Ukraine, because that's the cash cow now. That's the war. That's the global agenda, is Russia and Ukraine are fighting. And the liberal world order, or whatever you want to call it, the United Nations, America, our allies, they're all in support of Ukraine. Sure. I mean, but this kind of has flashbacks of like Vietnam and stuff. I know that they used to call people traitors. If you didn't support the war, you're a traitor. You know, you're a terrorist if you don't want to go to Afghanistan and Iraq. And whether it's the left wing or the right wing doing it, I've always disagreed with it. Yes, I'm a patriotic person. I support our country. You know, I want democracy to be free, or whatever the hell they pretend to do when they're dropping bombs on people. But in general, like, I don't think you're a traitor if you question the war. You know, that's what journalism's supposed to be. So all I would say to this person, I'm sure that their heart's in the right place. But when it comes to saying that someone's a propagandist because they disagree with a certain narrative, some people literally are propagandists, absolutely. But this is a game they've played for the last 50, 60 years. If you don't support what your government's doing, you're a traitor, you're a terrorist, you're a Muslim radical extremist supporter. You know, they have a name depending on the war, what they're doing. And it's interesting that that person brought gender ideology into the conversation about hunting down Russian propagandists, aka people who just disagree with giving their taxpayer dollars to Zelenskyy. Like, what opinion are you allowed to have that makes you not a Russian propagandist? I've never been to Russia. I don't necessarily care about Russia. If you understand what I'm saying, I'm not Russian. I don't have like Russian pride. I'm an American citizen. I care about my country. I root for America in the Olympics, not Russia. But with that being said, it's like these are two countries that I don't really have that much connection to. And I'm watching Zelenskyy talk and the way he acts and these people. And it's like, do I have to agree? Do I have to just agree? Yeah, take my money, please. Fleece me dry. Please suck as much money out of my country as you can. Like, that's the only proper opinion, or else they'll call you a Putin propagandist. It's like we're being held for ransom. It's like when they locked us down and they said, get a vaccine or you can't enter a movie theater. It's like, yeah, I'll listen to you. Oh, yeah, I'm free. This is democracy for sure. Yeah, we love free speech. It's just propagandist, right? No, a propagandist to a lot of people is anybody who just disagrees with the mainstream narrative of society, which is often completely wrong and insane. So this is the only correct stance I think you could have in the eyes of these people. Please take my money, Zelenskyy. This is all. Yeah, just keep sucking up money. I don't care if the war lasts 10 years, 12 years. As an American citizen, I have no right to disagree with the war because we just spent 20 years in Afghanistan and trillions of dollars running in circles. But yeah, please take my money. Please take the bankers' money. Please BlackRock. Please make a fortune in Ukraine. Rebuild. Oh, yeah, $1 trillion deal. Oh, you're rebuilding. JP Morgan. Please fleece the Ukrainian people. Please take all the money. Yeah, interest rates, loans. Woo! Yeah, get rich wherever you want. Just take over the world, right? It's a conspiracy theory, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure it's really tough for you to make $1 trillion in a foreign country rebuilding their country. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. That's so American. Yeehaw! Everybody who disagrees with me is a racist, sexist, xenophobic, anti-Semite for sure. I mean, God forbid anybody have a different opinion than that. Like, let's just send our taxpayer money everywhere. Let's just print trillions of dollars. Let's implode the economy. Let's give money to big pharma. Let's inflate the currency so nobody can afford everything. And then let's call everybody racist when they're trying to buy eggs, right? What I just said is the only opinion you're really allowed to have. If you ever break that mold, they'll have a name to call you depending like what topic you stand firm on. So just be prepared. That's the world we live in. I want to talk about real quick because I want to talk about the Russell Brand stuff at the end because I don't know his stance on the war in Ukraine, but I do find it interesting. I'm guessing he's probably not on the side of like the mainstream media, but it's not even just necessarily the claims against Russell Brand, but how they're handling it is really revealing to me. And I'm going to talk about it more in a second after we watch the former Prime Minister of New Zealand talk last year, because she says a lot of similar stuff that I heard Zelenskyy say. But, the UK Parliament, apparently, according to Rumble, is asking Rumble to demonetize Russell Brand. To me, that's pretty crazy. Like, whether you think he's innocent, he's guilty, you believe the documentary, you haven't seen it, you don't, you believe Russell Brand, regardless of what you think, the UK Parliament is asking a website to take away his money when the money with Russell Brand's probably not the biggest thing. The media smears and his image is like really suffering now. I doubt the money he makes through Rumble is necessarily like a make or break for him at this point in his life. But nobody thinks that's a little odd, whether you think he's innocent or guilty. The government of the United Kingdom is asking Rumble to take away his money. Like, that's where the pressure is coming from, the government. I mean, it's crazy what's going on. Here's Jacinda Ardern, our favorite Cheshire cat, who is possibly, and this is crazy, there's a lot of psychopaths in the world, possibly the most psychotic person I've ever seen. This is her, I think, last year, maybe at the United Nations, just talking about how she sees the world and misinformation and disinformation. Let's watch.
This week, we launched an initiative alongside companies and nonprofits to help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, a challenge that we must, as leaders, address. Sadly, I think it's easy to dismiss this problem as one in the margins. I can certainly understand the desire to leave it to someone else. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light-touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly. But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists? How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology? The weapons may be different, but the goals of those who perpetuate them is often the same: to cause chaos and reduce the ability of others to defend themselves, to disband communities, to collapse the collective strength of countries who work together. But we have an opportunity here to ensure that these particular weapons of war do not become an established part of warfare. In these times, I'm acutely aware of how easy it is to feel disheartened. We are facing many battles on many fronts, but there is cause for optimism, because for every new weapon we face, there is a new tool to overcome it. For every attempt to push the world into chaos is a collective conviction to bring us back to order. We have the means. We just need the collective.
So this is like a theme that I'm seeing in all the videos I played today. I mean, I don't know if Zelenskyy said it this time, but I've heard him say it other times where it's like, we believe in free speech and democracy, of course, but like when the free speech says things that we don't like, that we think are false, like it's a war essentially, and we can't have those weapons. They're starting to use words like that, like just I don't know. I would say imagery of like, oh, the words are weapons and it's a war. So at the same time that we do want to allow people to have the First Amendment, the free speech, I know she didn't say the First Amendment particularly, but free speech and democracy. But, when that is on the wrong side of what the war we want, then it's like a problem. And how are we ever going to fix the problems if people don't believe they're real in the first place? Well, the point of free speech, I think, is to have a convincing argument. And I do understand it might be flawed because we're watching it right now, but we don't have free speech. I don't think there is a free market. But, if there is enough propaganda, sure, people can believe the lie over the truth. I do understand that is an actual problem that we could face. But we don't really have the freedom of speech. And if we do, it's like freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. You could say it, but nobody could see it. So we just show them what we want to. And that's what we saw during COVID. We had freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, where we got our stuff taken down. So it's not free. And they got to just promote the lie 1,000 times. And then when all their lies fell down, they said, oh, we didn't know that we were wrong. It wasn't a lie technically because we were wrong, but we thought we were right based on the science. It's like, well, in a free market, if you would have allowed other doctors and other scientists and other journalists and other intelligent people that had logical arguments and explanations, your argument at the time wouldn't have added up. With Vivek, I know a lot of people saw my debate with him where he said, oh, you had foresight on the vaccine. That's my most viral clip from it. You had foresight on the vaccine and the lockdown, and I have foresight on other stuff, and you were right. Like, he tried to flatter me, and I'm like, I appreciate the compliment, but I don't believe that I knew so much before you did. I believe that you worked for the pharmaceutical industry. And in 2020, the smart thing, the business decision to make would be to capitalize on the pandemic, not to just sit around and crunch numbers and go against the pharmaceutical industry. That's a very dangerous thing to do, but it is better to do that when you're running as a Republican president because people want that more. So it's like, I don't believe this narrative that they didn't know they were wrong. What they did is the pharmaceutical industry tried to make as much money as possible. The Republican Party sold us out and failed us, including Trump. Nobody wants to admit that. The Democratic Party was in on it the whole time. The media was in on it, and they didn't allow free speech. They didn't allow a conversation. They didn't allow the data and the science that went against what they said. So then 2 years later, they all come out, except for Trump, who for some reason still pathologically lies with the Democrats about the vaccine, but everyone else has told the truth about it, just not him, because he doesn't have to. He's the Republican idol. But in general, it's like, now they're like, oh, it was like a mistake. We just didn't know. Well, you shut down the opposing view on that situation. And they're trying to do that with war, and they're trying to do that with climate change. And they already did it with COVID and vaccines, and they've been doing it with vaccines for decades, where it's like, you can't possibly disagree. So we're going to take away your free speech because your free speech is hurting us, and it's not truly free speech. It's a sick game. Apparently, Joe Biden, the administration, announced $600 million to produce a tsunami of new at-home COVID tests, and will reopen the website to order them. I tweeted this. I mean, I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble, but more tests equal more cases equal more fear equals more compliance equals more vaccines equals more money. So, the more people are doing at-home PCR tests, the more cases you're going to find. One thing that they never admitted, which is insane to me, that it's so interesting that people get so involved in the characters of politics that they stop using their own brain. Whether you hate Donald Trump or you love Donald Trump, so many people stop thinking in 2020, 2021, and 2022 because their whole world revolved around Trump. And it was like, is he my guy? Is he going to save us? Does he have a plan? Do I hate him? Do I like him? Do I defend him? And then people stop thinking. The one thing that nobody talked about, because there's always some sort of kabuki theater for the masses to fight over, Hunter Biden's laptop that they're never going to convict him under or whatever, was just the basic logic of how they rolled this stuff out. The first one that I said was a third grade math equation. I just want to repeat it because it's important. I knew that they were overcounting deaths and the death rate early on. How did I know? But Vivek didn't know, Trump didn't know, the World Health Organization didn't know. How did I figure it out? Because they weren't giving tests out to everybody. It's a simple math equation. If only athletes and people at hospitals are getting tests, the death rate's going to be higher because there's not that many tests. If you start testing asymptomatic people that aren't that sick, the death rate's going to go down. It's a third grade math equation. It's like how many tests versus how many cases, and it's a division problem. So it was always obvious that they were lying about the death rate to me, and I didn't even finish college. So how did I? It's simple. They just don't give a crap. And another one is, when did they roll out the COVID vaccine to the masses? When did they roll it out, right? First, let's rewind it real quick. Every year, what did they call October, November, December, January, February? What was that known as? November to February. Flu season. Every year of my life, it's flu season, it's flu season, it's flu season, and cases go up, and cases go up, and cases go up, and cases go up. 2 years, 3 years after the COVID pandemic, New York Times and the Scientific American both wrote articles how the flu cases virtually disappeared. That's not my opinion. That's New York Times, Scientific American, look it up. They both wrote an article saying, where did the flu go during COVID? Like, the flu cases weren't really there. So during COVID, the flu season, which they never even really tested for, they just say you have the flu if they swab you, usually for like what's the thing called where you need antibiotics? Strep throat. And if you don't have strep throat, they just say you have the flu, and they don't even test you for the flu. But it's like a generic, you have the flu, you have the flu. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that happened, and the flu disappears, and COVID's here. Okay, that's interesting. And then when did the vaccine come out? This is something I've not heard a single person say. And this is why I'm going to continue to have an audience and have a group of people, whether it's smaller, bigger, it grows, it sinks. I'm not going anywhere because my analysis is unique and honest, and everybody else is like running around in circles like NPCs, just like licking the boots of some character in politics. But I've never heard a single person say this. When did they roll out the vaccines in 2021? They rolled them out right before summer. I believe it was like May and June. Every year, when are there the least amount of cases, whether it's the flu or whether it's the COVID? When are the least amount of cases? In May, in June, in July, in summer. The flu season is winter. Not flu season is summer. So they roll out the vaccine right during summer. And then what did all the experts tell you, and the Democrats and the Republicans and the Uniparty and DeSantis and Trump, all these losers? What did they all tell you? They're all like, well, look how effective it is. And they're going off of data from 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Wow, that's interesting. You rolled it out in May, June, July, and you're telling me how effective it's going to be. And then once flu season, aka COVID season, hits, now all of a sudden, it doesn't work as well as we thought it did. Wow, the cases are going up. Oh, whoa, we thought it was going to protect you for 2 years. Well, you rolled it out during summer. Why don't you roll out the COVID vaccine during winter and see how effective it is? Then your 4 to 5 month success of the vaccine. Oh, look, it had 4 months before most people got sick, so it was effective for this and that. It's all based on when you roll it out. If you roll out the vaccine in October, and then the first 3 months of the vaccine are November, December, January, does anybody think you're going to have the same exact data results as if you roll it out in May, June, and July? Even statistically, based off of like the amount of, it's so obvious. It's also, it's like they rolled it out during summer. They talked about how successful it was for 3 or 4 months. And then majestically during flu COVID season, it's just not working anymore. And then you got to get the booster shot. And then when's the booster shot going to come out? It's going to come out every flu season, just like the flu shot comes right out before everybody gets sick. Now the COVID shot's going to come out in the winter. So they're getting a bunch of tests now, because people are going to be testing positive. What is it? September, October, November. And it's like a nonstop fear scheme. I'm not saying people aren't getting sick. I'm not saying people don't get sick more in the winter, but it's like, this is like the book, How to Lie with Statistics. They explain all this stuff where it's like, if you say you had two groups of 1,000 people and you're like, here's the placebo, here's the non-placebo. Even in a normal group where you don't give them anything, you're going to get different results in those groups. How old are they? You know what I'm saying? How many comorbidities do people have? Like maybe there's a situation where like people in that group would have got sick anyway. So now you just keep doing trials and keep doing trials. And then you get the results you want and you put out the results you want. Like, look, it worked. Look, guys, the vaccine's effective for 3 months from May to August. Look, it's 4 months success and it's not our fault. We just thought it was going to work for 2 years. But then when flu season and COVID season came around, all of a sudden the efficacy wasn't 100% like we thought it might be. And it really wasn't even close, but it does this and that. It's like, it's all just like a game. It's crazy that nobody realized that they rolled the vaccine out during summer and then took credit for the summer months, which statistically always are going to have the least amount of those type of illnesses, just like COVID. Every winter it kind of like peaked, and then during like, it usually went down during spring and summer on average. It's like people don't even care, and this is why Republicans are like controlled op. It's just like, they don't know this crap either. They fund the vaccines, they sell the vaccines, they wear the mask. Tim Scott's getting a booster, whatever the hell he's doing, or a COVID shot. I don't know if he got the booster. And then like 5 months later, after they sell you down the river, they're like, oh no, I who would have saw all that coming? It wasn't us, patriots. We just got fooled. We just got fooled into taking meetings with all these people and passing their bills. We got fooled, patriots, because we wear cowboy hats. And the Republican base is just as stupid as the left-wing base. It's like, it's embarrassing at this point. But anyway, I want to talk about the Russell Brand situation, because I find it very interesting how they're cracking down on him. YouTube, I talked about it yesterday, is saying they have some sort of policy that I've never heard of before, where, it's not that his videos necessarily like broke a guideline, but his existence is breaking a guideline, even though there's murderers and criminals and an entire genre on YouTube of ex-murderers and criminals making YouTube channels and getting monetized. So they don't even care about actual people who've been convicted of crazier and just as serious crimes. So that's not really their policy. So they're clearly not cracking down on him for that reason. Then you have the British Parliament or the British government basically asking Rumble to take his money away. What? Even if you think he's guilty, the British government is coming to Rumble asking them to take his monetization away on Rumble. Are they going to even take him to court or not? Is it going to go to trial if it's this serious? So I talked to somebody yesterday, right? I talked to a woman that I'm friends with that I haven't talked to in a while, and they had mentioned the Russell Brand thing. So I called them up because I wanted to get their opinion, right? I was like, I want to hear it from somebody else that's not me, because I have my own bias. And I said, they said, I watched the Russell Brand documentary and it's really bad. And I was like, okay. And listen, this is just my conversation that I had. I'm not going to tell you what's in the documentary. I haven't watched it. I'm not taking a stance on it until I see it and really can make an opinion. But I'm just telling you what I heard, and it's very creepy to me. I'm just going to be honest. So I said, all right, why is it bad? And like, they're telling me things, and I'm like, tell me the worst thing in the documentary, the most convincing thing. I want to hear, because there's always going to be music and drama. Like, and I asked this person, I said, they watched it. They liked Russell Brand before. Now they think he's guilty. I said, what's the worst thing from the documentary? Tell me the worst, the most convincing thing that he committed a crime and he's a rapist and he's a sicko. Tell me it. And they said, well, it was this woman who didn't want to be in the documentary, so it was anonymous. They didn't use their real name. And also, they didn't even use the real person. They used an actress acting as the woman, and she said that she had consensual sex with Russell Brand for a while, and then at a certain point she did it because Russell Brand was hooking up with other women, and basically she had hung out with Russell Brand another time, and the actress said that, that was playing the role of the actual woman, said that Russell Brand didn't rape her, but like he had a look in his eyes and like put her up against the wall, and then she was like, stop, and he snapped out of it and didn't rape her, and that was it. So I was like, wait a second. That's the most convincing part of the documentary, was a woman who was an actress that was overly dramatizing a real situation because the real person didn't want to be in it. So they literally just replaced the person with an actor, telling them about a time that Russell Brand didn't rape her, but like freaked out at her. I was like, that's the most convincing part of the whole documentary to you? And they were like, yeah. And like, you know, we had a good conversation, and I get there's a man and a woman's perspective, but it's like sometimes as a woman, you know, we feel that way. And it's like, listen, you can't just feel like you got raped. You got to actually have gotten raped, and everyone will be behind you and with you. But like, if you feel that way, like that's a crazy thing to say. Like you're going to throw a guy in prison or ruin his entire life because you feel that way, but it didn't happen. But like, what? You know, so there's this dynamic of like, there's this narrative they're pushing to women that if a man has power and he uses his power as leverage, that's kind of like rape, even when it's not rape. And it's like, is a hot woman with big boobs, is she raping you because her power is in her beauty and she uses her power to get things and to get rich men and to get successful men because she's hot and she gets places that women who are ugly couldn't get? Am I being raped all the time by hot women that I'm attracted to because I can't control myself? You know, like that's different from rape. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to blur the lines of what, like, rape is rape. I don't agree with rape. I think it's evil. I think rapists that actually physically, you know, just like invade somebody without their permission, that's unexcusable. I mean, that should be charged heavily. But we can't even talk about that happening now because the media is basically telling women that if you feel uncomfortable and a man has power and you did something and you agreed to it and it was consensual, but then, you know, later in time you thought about not doing it, you know, now it's kind of like rape because it feels like rape. It's like, what? I'm not saying Russell Brand is innocent or guilty. I have no idea. I haven't seen the thing. I don't know who he is. He's not my favorite person or anything. So I don't have like a huge connection to him. But at the same time, I see exactly what's going on. They are taking away his monetization and setting a new precedent to take away any monetization from anybody without a fair trial. The government of an entire country is weighing in on this topic and trying to pressure a company from a different country to take his money away. It's like, if he's guilty, then go to court. But if you're not even taking this guy to court and you're asking a foreign company to demonetize him, that's a creepy precedent that is being set. Meanwhile, a representative from a foreign country is on air threatening journalists across the world who disagree with the Ukrainian narrative. I'm not saying that this is connected, but to me, it seems crazy. And then somebody that I like, and I don't care if they have a different opinion than me. I'm not shaming them or disrespecting them. I'm just saying, I asked because I was like, I didn't watch. Can you tell me, since you think he's guilty, can you tell me like the most convincing part of the documentary? Because I haven't watched it. And the most convincing part to them was the fact that they had an actress play an actual person. So it's not even the real person that Russell Brand did this to. It's an actress. They replaced the person with an actress, an anonymous name. And she said that he didn't rape her, but he almost did. But then he like woke out of it. And it's like that. I'm not saying that nothing ever happened. I don't know who Russell Brand is, but if this is new journalism and new documentaries, you don't need a name. You don't need a source. You don't even need the person to be there and blur their face out. It could literally be replace a real person with an actress. And you could say, I could write a script right now and say, Donald Trump railed me in the behind with the power bar in 1945. It's like, well, you got to put your name on that. Because if you lied about Donald Trump, that's pretty huge. Like, you know, he's running for president. It's like, no, I'm going to just not even put my name. I'm not even going to be there. My face isn't going to be there. I'm going to replace myself with an actor. Give me the guy who played Aquaman to dramatize the situation. It's like at that point, you could write and say anything because there's no consequences. You're not showing your face. You're not saying your name. You're completely anonymous. And you're replacing you with an actor who's then going to be able to dramatize the situation even more because actors and actresses are professional actors and actresses. It's like, and that's not a red flag to people because there's music behind it and drama and emotion. I mean, this is really creepy that people are okay with it. Let's just make a documentary then. You know, Kamala Harris butt pumped me behind a 7-Eleven with a rail. And, you know, I haven't been able to sit down ever since. Oh my gosh, Anami, that's crazy. Well, actually, that's not mine. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not going to have my face. I'm not going to have my name. None of it's just going to be a random actor and actress that's representing someone else that no one knows who it is. It's like, that's not journalism. That's not documentary. That's just straight up theater. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's not never happened, but it's like if we allow this to be the president, YouTube can ban anybody, even if they've never been convicted in court. Meanwhile, there's rapists and murderers who monetize on YouTube. The government of UK is able to pressure a company into taking his money away, even though there's been no trial. And actors and actresses can literally represent people that are admitting that they weren't raped, but they just felt uncomfortable after they consensually had sex. I'm not saying he's not a bad guy. I don't know what he did, but like, what if this is the president that we allow? Everybody's screwed. Anybody could write any script, have any actor role play it, and everyone just has to believe it if there's music behind it, even if there's no evidence, no name, no person. I mean, this is a really bad precedent to set, and I'm not. It seems like Russell Brand lived a wild life, and if he was heavy into drugs, I mean, that's not. I'm sure he's had some dark periods of his life, and I'm not excusing it. It's just everybody. I'm not going to say has done what he's done, but I'm not trying to fully excuse his whole life. It's just like, if this is allowed to be done to him in this way, then anyone can be got for anything, whether it's true or not. And nobody cares because there's no trial, no court, no person, no name, no face, literally just actors and actresses reading a script and overly dramatizing something that may or may not have happened. It's just insane. So, take it for what it is, but it's just really crazy that this is going on. And it's, after COVID, I would say there was like an energy shift, right? I mean, there were two energy shifts in the last 10 years. It was Trump winning and then COVID. When Trump won, reality just kind of shifted completely and it turned into Trump world and everybody lost their minds. It was like the left just lost it. The right was cool for a while. Now they've lost it and they're just like too obsessed with them. And like the Trump era just like turned the world on its head and everything was Trump until COVID. And then the world became COVID world and everyone's reality completely shifted. The rules shifted, the laws probably didn't shift, but they pretended like they shifted. The media shifted, our freedoms and liberties shifted. And once COVID world happened, like the new normal, as they called it, right? You look at this stuff and the new normal, the great reset, the new normal. And now it's like, it's normal to be locked in your house. It's normal to not be able to go to school. It's normal to not be able to work out. It's normal to just have pharmaceutical companies do whatever they want. It's normal to get censored. It's normal to not have an opinion. It's normal to not go to a grocery store without a vaccine. And in my view, I don't think we really won that thing. And I said this even after everything came back. I'm grateful. I'm appreciative. Enjoy your life. Have fun. Don't be like a fear monger by any means. But they gave us our stuff back. We didn't really earn it back. It's not like we stood up against vaccine mandates. They kind of gave it back. So if they gave us our stuff back, I feel like they gave it back for their own reasons, not for our reasons. Like California couldn't keep shutting down for that long. I think, and this is one thing too, I think DeSantis helped during COVID more than Trump because Florida competing on a big scale with a big economy with California and New York, that made Gavin Newsom need to open. I think Gavin Newsom and Democrats would have stayed locked down for 20 years if it weren't for Republican states that were taking away their business and money and income to the point where they can't sustain it. So I don't think they gave us our freedom back because we earned it. We didn't necessarily earn it. They just kind of ran out of room to play that game and they had to figure it out or else they were going to lose even more power in real estate. So they just had to flip it back on. But we never really earned our freedom back from that. So the same vibe and energy from COVID has kind of taken precedent where like now, and this is why I really respect hardliners who said, don't even do 15 days to slow the spread. And I remember the people that went out on a limb and said, never lock down even for a second. Because once you normalize lockdowns, you're kind of screwed. And I knew for sure we were screwed. And I'm not saying that there's no promise or anything, but when Trump extended the 15 days to slow the spread guidelines, that was like death to America. Like Trump just took a knife and just stabbed America in the heart. And I was like, this guy sucks, because it was so obvious after 15 days to slow the spread. It was so obvious what was going on. The data was obvious. And Trump took the side of the communists and he said, Sweden should have locked down. We're extending our guidelines. Trump killed America. Okay. And after that point, it's like now it's normalized. It was not just a quick 2-week thing. Now it's a 2-month thing. Now they're doing tests. Now, and I remember when he wore a mask. These are like iconic moments. He wouldn't wear a mask. I was so glad. I'm like, Trump, Don't wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, I don't have to wear a mask. We all don't have to wear it. We're going to stand. We're all in this together. We're on the side of liberty. And then one day Trump put on a mask and he caved to the masks. And then he's like, oh, there's nothing more patriotic than wearing a mask. Go look up that tweet. He literally said that. There's nothing more patriotic than wearing. What are you talking about, dummy? You gave up our freedoms. You locked down. You extended the guidelines. You complained about Georgia opening. You complained about Sweden. And now you're wearing a freaking mask. But anyway, long story short, then all this stuff happened. You saw the backlash of all these things that happened in 2020. They've come to this day. Like, the biggest lie in Republican media that I've gotten a lot of flack for saying, but it's just true. Inflation was coming anyway. This financial crisis that everyone's talking about, oh, the banks are saying something bad's going to happen. Hey, guys, watch out, Patriots. I'm taking out loans and it's not right. Something's off. Duh. We blew it in 2020. This was always going to happen. It didn't matter if Joe Biden or Trump got in. We blew it in 2020. Republicans imploded the economy. Republicans imploded the financial systems. Republicans worked with Big Pharma and the bankers to do it. And we've been screwed since that moment. I would be shocked if a bigger financial crisis doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't. I hope we've done enough. I hope they've raised interest rates enough and scammed enough Americans and sucked enough Americans dry that they could lay off in a little bit now that everybody's poor. I hope that the damage is done, because the damage is done, but it might not be because of what they did. And if it isn't, I wouldn't be shocked. I hope it's done, but it's probably not. When they're like, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, what do you think's going to happen, dummies? We dug a 20-foot hole and now we're going to have to deal with it for the next decade. And it wasn't just Democrats who did it. But long story short, the COVID era of the vibe of like, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. This is why we can't have Republicans that cave. And a lot of Republicans, if not all of them, caved. We got to point out the ones who figured it out quickly. We have to, this is like with Trump and DeSantis. It's like, I don't trust either of them, but DeSantis has at least shown that he has leadership against COVID. And Trump still to this, literally today, is still begging for credit for lockdowns, still begging for credit for vaccines. He's not on our side. And it's going to be the end of the Republican Party if people don't snap out of it. And I'm at peace with it, because I've realized that Republicans have a fetish for getting scammed and conned. And that's what they want. They want to just complain about Democrats while they follow pathological liars who take away their liberty, and they just make excuses for them. It's like a weird fetish where it's like, we love getting scammed. We love getting spanked. We want daddy to slap us in the face. And when someone points out that he's slapping us, we're going to say he only slapped us because he got tricked or he got puppeted or he got fooled. That's why daddy's my daddy. And it's like, Trump's a baby binky for the Republican Party. As the Titanic's sinking, they just want to, ruin everything for the future generations because they're obsessed with like idol worship. You got accounts that are literally like, oh my gosh, Stacey Abrams wants to take away babies' heartbeats. Oh my gosh, that's evil. And now they won't say anything. So it was never about the heartbeats. It was never about the babies to these accounts that said that 2 months ago. They would take babies' heartbeats and throw them and sacrifice them into a pit of hell for Donald Trump. This is their new religion. Their new religion is Donald Trump. They would take babies' heartbeats and throw them into a fire pit if that meant 5 more minutes of them sucking off Donald Trump or whatever the hell they think they're doing. I don't know. It's very bizarre. But long story short, with all this stuff, the climate change, the COVID stuff, they're coming in pretty hard. I mean, they're coming in pretty tough. And I'm not one to fearmonger because I'm a very optimistic person, but you see the economy is like not necessarily getting fully better. It is a little bit, but like things are still really expensive. Everything's expensive. Like everyone's paying more. Nobody's really making that much more. So everyone's getting poorer slowly. Okay. Hopefully that'll end soon. But then you have how they're treating dissidents, like people that are against the Ukrainian war. They're openly saying they're going to hunt them in this country. I mean, they're going after anybody who even like Elon Musk, he's not perfect by any means, but he definitely is on the right side of a lot of topics. And now they're investigating Tesla, and like the communists are going full steam ahead with their agenda. And my issue, and the only reason I'm still talking about it, is you can't beat these people if your party's working with them. You can't beat these people if your party's willing to compromise and cave with them. And I wanted to say this real quick because, I really do want to do a whole nother stream on this. But Trump put out that thing yesterday where he said, I want to compromise on abortion because I want Democrats to like me. And I heard that Dan Bongino's like, yeah, that makes total sense. Trump is pro-life, but he just doesn't want to pretend he's pro-life, or else, the Democrats and these people won't vote for him, the pro-choice people. And it's like, here's the thing. It's not a secret. Like if you're saying Trump is really pro-life, he's really on your side, but he just wants to pretend like he's not to impress them. Who believes that? It's like, hey guys, I'm pro-life, but I'm gonna pretend like I'm pro-choice. The pro-choice people can hear you. They can hear you saying that Trump's just pretending to appease these people. Trump's putting out like wink true socials, like, you know, follow your heart. I'm with you, but I got to pretend like I'm not for the election. Everyone's reading this stuff, Dan Bongino. Everyone's reading this stuff, Trump. They know that you are pro-life or you're not pro-life, and you're like no one, you know, the right doesn't know what to believe. They don't really trust you. Some think you're pro-life, some think you're pro-choice, but your pitch of like, I'm pro-life, but I'm going to pretend to be pro-choice to win their votes. They see you saying that, so they know that you're not really on their side, and they're going to vote for Democrats anyway. And then he puts out this post today. I want to do a different video on it because I find it just fascinating psychologically. Trump puts out this video of a bunch of alligators, and it was like basically saying it was border security, like joking that he wanted to feed the migrants to the alligators and kill them. And here's the thing. Am I offended by that post? No, I'm not offended. I've seen crazier memes, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily. But if your logic is like, oh, I'm trying to get Democrats and moderates to like me, so I'm going to pretend to cave on abortion, but I don't really believe them. But then I'm going to post memes about how I want alligators to kill and eat migrants. It's like, oh yeah, that's really going to work. That's really going to pull really well with the people that think you're not compassionate. I'm a very strong line. I think we should close the border. I think that we need to look at illegal immigration and really handle it. Like, I'm as strong as Trump on the issue, if not stronger, but I wouldn't even post that because I just know that it's not like a compassionate argument that works with leftists. You got to understand and be like, hey, I'm not trying to hurt these people. I'm not trying to, you know, hurt anybody, but at the same time, they're hurting America in the sense that our border is completely open and we can't take 2 million people from all over the world. We have to send people back. We have to be stricter. Like, there's a way to be a hardline border guy and be compassionate. Trump is like the worst of both worlds. He's like, I got to cave on abortion because I don't really give a crap, but I do give a crap, but I'm just pretending. No one believes you, bro. And then the next day you post a freaking meme of a bunch of migrants getting eaten and killed by alligators. Like, that's not you trying to compromise with like the left. Like, no one believes that that's going to get votes. And I'm not offended by that thing. It's just like, Trump basically chases everybody away because he just pushes this stuff. And then he acts like he's so moderate and so chill. It's like the perception of Trump in the Democrat world is that he's the most radical leader ever. You're not going to convince them that Trump's not that person. They think he's literally Hitler, even though he's probably a liberal. They don't care. So it's like Trump caves on every topic, puts out stupid rhetoric that pisses everybody off, and then acts like winking on abortion is going to get him all those votes. And then the next day he puts out a meme about killing migrants. And that's really how you compromise Donald Trump. No, why don't you? It's like, it's just crazy to me. I don't get what everyone's going for. And just listening to like, people are like, no, but dude, Bongino's saying that Trump is pro-life, but he just doesn't want to act like he's pro-life for the election. If he's saying that and you're saying that, everyone hears it. It would be like me being like, you know, I want to lock the border down, but I'm going to pretend to be open borders so I could get Beto's supporter. It's like, that's something you say behind closed doors so no one hears it. You don't say it out in the open like, hey, I'm really for a border wall, but I'm going to pretend like I want to tear it down so a bunch of progressives vote for me. It's like, that you can't say it out loud. They all heard you say that you're not really that. So it's like, it's just the craziest logic that that's somehow going to work. If Trump said, I am pro-choice, I absolutely am pro-choice, I think that we should wait until 15 weeks or 16 weeks. We got to draw a line, but I'm pro-choice up until then he might be able to earn some of those votes. Like, I'm pro-choice, I'm not pro-life. But Trump's trying to play both sides. He goes to the March for Life and acts like he is a hardline conception. And then he comes out and says 15 weeks and heartbeat bills are bad. And then you got his supporters trying to gaslight me and be like, no, you don't understand. He's just talking about federally. The whole conversation we're having is because Roe versus Wade was overturned. It's sent back to the states, and Florida, with their state, decided to utilize the power of Roe versus Wade being overturned and pass a heartbeat bill for heartbeats. So Trump isn't just talking about nationally. He's weighing in on states that have their decision, and he's saying that pro-life states are making a terrible mistake. It's a terrible thing. So it's like, he's doing the worst of both worlds. No one in the pro-choice movement thinks that Trump is pro-choice. Nobody in the, I mean, I would say there's Trump worshipers, and then there's people that are just like objective conservatives. I think objective conservatives are coming to the conclusion that Trump is whoever he needs to be in order to get votes, but it doesn't even work because the left doesn't like him like that, because he doesn't have the like, you know, you can't make a compromise like that and everybody knows you're not really being real about it, and then you just post a meme about like migrants getting eaten by alligators. It's like that, you know, that doesn't work with liberals. They're not gonna, like, that post that he did there is gonna make more people hate him than his abortion stance. It's like everybody that you think you picked up by faking your abortion stance is just gonna be wiped away by your inability to sound compassionate or authentic when you talk about certain topics. I'm not offended by the meme. I think that I would be fine with putting the military at the border to stop the border. It's like, I'm not soft on it at all, but when I say it, if I want to get liberals and progressives on my side, there's two options. One, they might never agree with me on this topic. So there's only so many people you can get. You could try your best, but at the end of the day, you can't please everyone. And this idea that you can is a lie. But also, there's a way to explain it compassionately. You know what I'm saying? To be like, listen, the reason I'm trying to close the border down and send people back is not because I want them to get eaten by alligators. You know, it's not because I want them to get killed. I want them to live peacefully in their own country and come here legally or apply to come here. And that's how we got to do it. And we can't have 2 million people coming over the border. You can't have people coming from Russia, from China, from Africa. And you think that's an exaggeration? There's people at the border from Russia, from China, and from Africa. It's not just Mexico, and it's not just South America. Now there's millions of people coming across the border every year. Elon Musk seems more concerned about it than most Republican governors. You know, I think they are concerned about it, but they can't do anything because of the Biden administration. But long story short, it's like, if you speak about it in this way, you can actually get liberals on your side. You know, it's like Trump basically scares everyone away with his annoying rhetoric. And then it's like, he acts like he's like this huge guy that's going to do all this stuff. And everyone's like, whoa. And then he doesn't even do it. It's like, if you're going to get the, you know, if you're going to get the aesthetic of like, oh, Trump's this big bad guy, then do the big bad policies. Go do it. You know what I'm saying? They already hate you. Overturn DACA if you want to do that. But if you don't want to do that, then don't do it. But nobody's going to perceive Trump as like a liberal on that topic. Like, no one looks at Trump and they're like, oh, he really, you know, he bent the knee on prison. They don't give him credit. And he's like, they're not giving me credit for COVID. Of course not, bro. You got tricked. You got bamboozled. You got duped. You got played like a fiddle, Trump. You got played like a damn fiddle. Of course they're not going to give you credit. You thought they were? He met with Bill Gates in 2018, and Bill Gates was like, oh, universal flu vaccine. You're going to be the science guy. You're going to get, look up all those articles. Like, he said that Trump liked the idea and was flattered, thinking he was going to be the science guy. So they buttered Trump's biscuits for 3 years. Oh, do the vaccines. You'll be the vaccine guy. We'll give you so much credit, Trump. Democrats will love you. You'll finally be loved by your enemies. Everybody's going to love you. Oh, you think so? You think I'll sell out my base? You think I'll do communism for a little bit and they'll like me? Yeah. And then he does it, and then they don't give him credit. And now he's still running around crying like, why won't they give me credit? Why won't they give me credit? Because they played you, because they tricked you, just like everybody plays you and tricks you. It's insane. I'm going to do another video in a second. I'm going to cut this off. But, you know, Trump said that Megyn Kelly gave him a nasty interview. She was nice. She was barely mean. She gave him compliments at the end. She asked him a few tough questions. And this is why nobody in conservative media asked Trump questions, because Candace did it one time, barely asked him a few tough questions, was way nice to him, and he hates it. Megyn Kelly gives him a nice interview, asks him about gender and vaccines, and Trump hates it. It's like, if you give Trump a real interview and ask him questions, he's going to say you're nasty and rude. And he wants people like Carrie Lake that are going to vacuum, you know, the carpet under his feet. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying it's like, it's a crazy, crazy moment. But God bless you guys. Real quick before I leave, I want to let you know, if you want, Chad Jackson interviewed me on Patreon. It's like 50 minutes. It's going to be a two-parter probably, but I thought that would be a good piece of content for those on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter subscribers, anybody subscribing to me. There's a secret interview that only you can see as a subscriber on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. Check it out. He asked me some questions. I talked about a lot of stuff that I don't talk about publicly that much. Hope you like it. Hope you appreciate it. I'm trying to keep this under an hour, and I'll be back with another video about the last topics I was talking about, because clearly I'm passionate about that, but I want to keep this about what it was supposed to be about. Appreciate you. God bless. I'll be back soon. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a